The 13th Witness, Part 1. The Room of Strangers. James opened his eyes slowly. His head throbbed, and he felt dizzy. The air smelled strange, like dust and something metallic. He sat up, confused. The room was large but bare. The walls were gray with no windows. There were just 4 walls, a ceiling, and a floor. A single bulb hanging from the ceiling lit the room with a dim, yellowish glow. James looked around. He wasn't alone. 12 other people were in the room, all sitting or standing. Some looked scared, others angry, and a few seemed as confused as he was. No one spoke at first. The silence was heavy. The only sound was the low hum of the bulb. James rubbed his temples, trying to remember how he got here. His last memory was of walking home from work the night before. Did he get hit on the head? Kidnapped? He looked down at his clothes. They were the same as yesterday, but they were wrinkled and smelled of sweat. Finally, someone spoke. It was a woman in her late 40s. She had short, curly hair and wore a red jacket. "Does anyone know what's going on?" she asked, her voice trembling. No one answered. People exchanged nervous glances. James decided to speak up. I don't know how I got here," he said. His voice sounded strange in the quiet room. "Does anyone remember anything?" A young man in a black hoodie raised his hand slightly, as if he were in school. His face was pale, and his hands shook. I don't know either," he stammered. "I was in my car, driving home, and then nothing. I woke up here." More people started to talk. A tall man in a suit said he was at work. An older woman with glasses said she was gardening. A teenager with bright green hair said he was playing video games at home. Everyone had a different story, but they all ended the same way. They couldn't remember how they got here. James noticed something odd. All of them, including himself, had a number pinned to their chest. His said 13. The others had numbers from 1 to 12. No one seemed to know why. "Why are we numbered?" asked a woman with a soft voice. She looked at her badge, which said 7. Before anyone could answer, there was a loud click. A speaker on the ceiling crackled to life. Everyone froze. "Welcome," a deep, mechanical voice said. It sounded cold and lifeless, like a robot. "You are here because each of you witnessed a crime. A terrible crime." Murmurs filled the room. Some people looked shocked, others angry. James's heart raced. He didn't remember witnessing any crime. Was this some kind of mistake? The voice continued. "One of you is lying. One of you is not a witness. But the criminal, the killer." Gasps echoed around the room. The man in the suit took a step back, as if trying to distance himself from the accusation. The teenager muttered something under his breath. The voice didn't pause. "You have one task. Find out who the liar is. Until you do, you cannot leave this room. Be warned." The liar knows who you are. The liar knows your secrets. The speaker crackled again, then went silent. James's mind raced. A killer? A liar? What kind of twisted game was this? He looked around the room. The strangers no longer looked confused. They looked suspicious. Eyes darted from one person to another. Who could be trusted? The tall man in the suit was the first to break the silence. "This is ridiculous," he said, his voice loud and commanding. "Whoever is behind this has made a mistake. I don't know anything about a crime. None of us do." "How do you know?" snapped the teenager with green hair. "Maybe you're the liar. Maybe you're the liar," the man in the suit shot back. Soon, everyone was talking, their voices overlapping in a messy, chaotic mix. Some shouted accusations. Others tried to calm things down. James stayed quiet, watching. He didn't trust any of them. Not yet. Finally, the woman in the red jacket raised her hands and shouted, "Enough! Fighting won't help. We need to stay calm and figure this out." The room fell quiet again, though the tension remained. James spoke up. "If we really witnessed a crime, maybe we should share what we know. What did you see? What do you remember?" At first, no one wanted to speak. Then, slowly, people began to share their stories. A man with a scruffy beard said he saw a robbery. A woman with curly hair said she saw someone being attacked. Others described different crimes: arson, theft, even a hit and run. When it was James's turn, he hesitated. He didn't remember seeing anything. He could make something up, but what if someone caught him lying? Instead, he said, I don't remember seeing a crime. Maybe it'll come back to me." This answer didn't seem to satisfy the others. A few people eyed him with suspicion. James felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The teenager rolled his eyes. "Convenient," he muttered. The group continued to talk, but trust was fading quickly. People whispered in small groups, their voices low and secretive. James felt like he was being watched constantly. Everyone seemed to be sizing each other up, looking for clues or weaknesses. Hours passed. No one came to let them out. The speaker remained silent. The dim bulb flickered now and then, making the room feel even colder. James leaned against the wall, trying to think. Somewhere in this room was a killer. And the killer knew who they were. Part 2. The first clues. The room was tense. The strangers looked at one another. Some pacing, some sitting with their heads in their hands. The teenager with green hair, who called himself Liam, was leaning against the wall, staring at everyone like he was trying to solve a puzzle. The woman in the red jacket, named Marie, stood up again. She seemed to take charge of the group. "Listen, we can't stay like this. If we fight or accuse each other, it'll only help the liar. We need to work together." "Work together?" scoffed the man in the suit, who had introduced himself as Victor. "One of us is a killer. How do you work with that?" Marie gave him a sharp look. We don't have a choice, do we? Unless you have a better idea. Victor stayed quiet but folded his arms, clearly unhappy. Marie turned to the rest of the group. The voice said, "We witnessed a crime. We need to figure out what connects us. Maybe the crime is the key. Does anyone remember where their crime happened?" One by one, people started sharing their memories, though they were foggy and incomplete. "I saw a robbery," said a man with a scruffy beard, who called himself Alan. "It was at a jewelry store. The thief wore a mask and had a gun. That's all I remember." "I saw an attack," said an older woman named Clara. She adjusted her glasses nervously. "A man hit someone with a bat. It was dark. I don't remember anything else." Others added their pieces. A young woman named Zoe said she saw a car speeding away after knocking someone down. Liam mentioned a burning building but couldn't remember where. A quiet man in the corner, who said his name was David, admitted he remembered nothing at all, just like James. When it was James's turn, he repeated what he said earlier. "I don't remember seeing any crime. I don't know why I'm here." Victor smirked. "How convenient for you. First you don't remember and now this. Sounds suspicious to me." James felt his face grow warm. He wanted to argue but held back. He wasn't the only one who couldn't remember. Why was Victor singling him out? Marie stepped in. "Leave him alone, Victor. We're not here to point fingers without proof." Victor muttered something under his breath but didn't push further. Marie looked thoughtful. "All these crimes, they seem random. A robbery, an attack, a fire, a hit and run. But maybe they're connected somehow. Did anyone see the same place? Or the same person?" The room fell quiet as people thought. No one seemed to have a clear answer. Suddenly, the speaker crackled again. Everyone jumped. The mechanical voice returned. "You were doing well," it said, cold and emotionless. "But time is running out. Remember, the liar knows your secrets. The liar will do anything to survive." The voice paused, then continued. "You have until midnight. If you do not find the liar by then, everyone will pay the price." The speaker went silent, and the room erupted. "Midnight? What happens at midnight?" Clara asked, her voice trembling. "Maybe the killer gets away," Alan suggested. "Or maybe we all—" He stopped, unwilling to say the word. "Die." James felt his stomach churn. He didn't know if the voice was telling the truth, but he didn't want to find out. Marie clapped her hands to get everyone's attention. "We need to move faster. We've been sharing our stories, but maybe we're missing something. Did anyone notice something unusual before they woke up here? Anything strange at all?" Liam spoke up. "Yeah. When I woke up, I found this in my pocket." He pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. It looked old, with smudged writing. "What does it say?" asked Zoe. Liam unfolded it and read aloud. "The truth hides where shadows fall." "What does that mean?" Clara whispered. Victor frowned. Probably nothing. Someone's idea of a bad joke. Marie shook her head. No, I don't think so. Why would it be in his pocket if it wasn't important? Did anyone else find anything? The group checked their pockets and belongings. Most people had nothing, but Clara pulled out a key. It was small and shiny with no markings. A key, Alan said. What does it open? I don't know, Clara replied, her voice shaky. I found it in my jacket when I woke up. The room buzzed with speculation. Was the key important? What did the note mean? Everyone seemed to have more questions than answers. While the others argued, James noticed something strange. On the wall near the corner, the light from the bulb flickered. It wasn't just random. It almost looked like it was pulsing, creating faint shadows. He walked over to the corner. The truth hides where shadows fall, he muttered to himself. Was it a clue? What are you doing? Victor called out. Annoyed. James ignored him and ran his fingers over the wall. At first he felt nothing. Then his hand brushed against something rough. He leaned in closer. Something's written here, James said. The others gathered around him. It was hard to see in the dim light, but there were faint words scratched into the wall. Marie grabbed a small flashlight from her pocket and shined it on the writing. The words read, "The killer is closer than you think." A wave of unease swept through the group. Everyone looked at each other, their faces pale and tense. This is crazy, Zoe said. How do we even know if it's true? Maybe the killer wrote it, Alan suggested. To mess with us. Or maybe it's a warning, Clara added softly. James stepped back, his mind racing. The more clues they found, the more dangerous this game felt. Midnight was only hours away, and the clock was ticking. Who was the liar? And why were they all trapped in this deadly game? Part 3. The Web of Lies. The room grew quieter after the message on the wall was discovered. Everyone seemed deep in thought. The tension was thick, and James could feel it in the air. Marie broke the silence. We need to focus. Midnight is coming, and we're running out of time. Victor crossed his arms. And what do you suggest, Marie? Trust everyone and hold hands? That's not how we find a killer. We stick to the clues, Marie replied firmly. Liam's note, Clara's key, and the message on the wall. Maybe there's more in this room we haven't found yet. Liam raised his hand like a kid in class. Should we split up and search? Maybe we missed something earlier. Marie nodded. Good idea. Let's divide into groups. Check every inch of this place. The group hesitated. No one wanted to pair up with someone they didn't trust, but they had no choice. Marie quickly assigned people to teams. Team 1, Marie and James. Team 2, Victor and Alan. Team 3, Clara and Zoe. Team 4, Liam and David. Everyone went to different corners of the room, searching for more clues. James and Marie. James and Marie focused on the walls, running their hands along the rough surface. "Do you think the killer is nervous?" James asked as he felt around. Marie paused. "If I were the killer, I'd be scared too. Being trapped here, it's risky. They can't run and we're all watching." James nodded but didn't feel reassured. "What if the killer is good at lying? We might never figure it out." Marie looked at him seriously. "We have to figure it out, James. Someone's life, maybe all our lives, depends on it." James wanted to ask more but stopped. He spotted something shiny on the floor near the base of the wall. He bent down and picked it up. "It's a coin." James held up a small silver coin. It looked old, with strange markings. Marie frowned. "That doesn't look like normal money. Show the others later. Maybe it connects to something." Victor and Alan. Victor and Alan searched the center of the room, flipping over chairs and looking under the single table. "You're awfully quiet," Victor said to Alan. Alan shrugged. "Just thinking. This whole thing feels wrong." "Why us? Why are we here?" Victor smirked. "That's what they want us to figure out. But I'll tell you this. If I find the liar, I'm not waiting for the group. I'll deal with them myself." Alan stopped and looked at Victor. "That's a dangerous way to think. What if you're wrong?" Victor leaned closer, his voice low. "Then they'd better convince me they're innocent." Clara and Zoe. Clara and Zoe searched near the door. The door was locked tight, with no handle or keyhole on their side. Clara pulled the small key from her pocket, turning it over in her hands. "What do you think this opens?" she asked Zoe. Zoe shrugged. "Could be anything. But why would they leave it with you? Do you think it's a test?" Clara hesitated. "Maybe. Or maybe it's a trap. I don't know." Zoe sighed. "This whole thing is a trap. Don't let it mess with your head." Liam and David. Liam and David searched the far corner of the room. Liam couldn't stop talking, even though David barely responded. "This is just like a movie," Liam said, his voice bouncing with nervous energy. Where a bunch of strangers are stuck in a room, and one of them is secretly evil. Maybe the killer left clues to mess with us. Or maybe the voice lied, and there's no killer at all." David finally spoke, his voice calm. "Or maybe the killer is pretending to help. Someone who talks a lot to distract us." Liam froze, his mouth open. "Are you saying you think I'm the killer?" David didn't answer. The meeting. After nearly an hour, the groups gathered in the center of the room to share what they found. "I found this," James said, holding up the coin. "It's strange, right?" Victor took it and examined it. "Looks like some kind of token. But for what? Did anyone find something else?" Marie asked. Clara stepped forward and held up her key. "It's still the only key we have. Maybe it connects to the coin somehow." "No," Victor said. "A key opens something. A coin is, I don't know. They don't match." "I found nothing," Zoe said. crossing her arms. Me neither, Alan added, though he glanced at Victor as he spoke. David stayed silent, but Liam piped up. We found nothing too, except maybe my feelings hurt. Victor rolled his eyes. We're wasting time. None of this tells us who the liar is. The tension rose again. People started accusing each other, pointing out who looked suspicious. You talk too much, Victor said to Liam. Maybe you're trying to hide something. And you're too aggressive, Liam shot back. Maybe you're the liar. Clara raised her hands. Stop. This isn't helping. Suddenly, James remembered the note Liam found. Wait, he said. What about the truth hides where shadows fall? Maybe we're missing something hidden in the shadows. Marie nodded. Everyone spread out. Check the corners again. The group searched, focusing on the darker parts of the room. Near the far corner, Zoe gasped. I found something. Everyone rushed over. Zoe held up a small box, hidden in the shadows near the floor. It was locked. Clara stepped forward. Maybe my key works. Her hands trembled as she inserted the key into the lock. It clicked. Inside the box was a folded piece of paper. Marie took it and read aloud. One truth has been revealed. 12 remain. Look closer at your stories. One of them does not belong. What does that mean? Liam asked, his voice high-pitched. It means one of us lied, Victor growled. And I intend to find out who. James's heart pounded as the pieces started to come together. The clock was ticking, and the group was running out of time. Part 4. The first thread. The group stood in silence, staring at the message from the box. The tension was heavier now, each person feeling the weight of suspicion. One of us lied, Marie said firmly. It's time we dig into each other's stories. We need to figure out who. Why don't we all just confess? Liam joked nervously, but no one laughed. Victor pointed at him. Maybe we start with you. Clown. You're too jumpy for my taste. Marie held up a hand. Stop. Let's do this right. Everyone takes turns. We go through each person's story, one by one. No interruptions. The group reluctantly agreed, though some, like Victor, grumbled. They gathered in a circle, sitting on the floor. I'll start, Marie said. Then we'll go clockwise. Marie's story. Marie spoke calmly. I work at a law firm. I handle paperwork for court cases, mostly contracts and wills. A few weeks ago, I witnessed something unusual. I was at the office late, and I heard voices in the meeting room. I peeked inside and saw two men arguing. One of them pulled out a knife. I didn't see much more because I panicked and hid under my desk. Later, I found out one of the men had died. Did you tell the police? Zoe asked. Yes, Marie replied. But I didn't see the killer's face clearly. I only heard them yelling. Victor snorted. Convenient. Marie ignored him. That's all I know. Your turn. James. James's story. James took a deep breath. I work in a small bookstore. Last month, I was helping a customer when I saw a car crash outside. 2 cars hit each other at full speed. I ran out to help, and one of the drivers climbed out of their car. They looked angry. Really angry. The next thing I knew, they pulled out a wrench and hit the other driver. I didn't know what to do. I just froze. You froze? Victor asked. Did you at least call the cops? James nodded. Of course. But by the time they arrived, the guy was gone. Victor frowned but said nothing. Clara's story. Clara clutched her hands tightly as she spoke. I'm a nurse. I work at a clinic in a small town. One evening, a man came in, bleeding. He said he'd been attacked, but he wouldn't tell me by who. I patched him up, but when I went to get more supplies, he was gone. The next day, I saw his face on the news. He was a suspect in a murder case. Zoe raised an eyebrow. And you didn't tell anyone? I didn't know, Clara exclaimed. I didn't realize until later. I did report it, but the police said they were already investigating. Liam's story. Liam twitched nervously as he began. I'm a delivery guy. I was dropping off a package at this big house a couple of weeks ago. I saw the door was open and there was shouting inside. I waited, but no one answered the doorbell. Then I heard a loud bang. I ran away. I didn't want to get involved. Victor shook his head. Coward. I reported it later, Liam said defensively, but I didn't know what else to do. Victor's story. Victor leaned back, his tone full of confidence. I own a gym. One of my clients came in late one night, acting weird. He said someone was after him. I told him to calm down and work out to clear his head. The next day, I heard he was dead, stabbed in the parking lot. Did you see who did it? Marie asked. No, Victor replied. But the guy was paranoid. He probably got himself into trouble. Zoe's story. Zoe spoke softly. I'm a teacher. A few weeks ago, one of my students brought a strange note to class. It said, I know your secret. The students seemed scared, but they wouldn't tell me who gave it to them. The next day, the student was absent, and I heard they'd been found unconscious near the school. The police said it might have been a robbery, but it felt strange. Alan's story. Alan's face was hard to read as he began. I'm an accountant. I was working late one night when I saw someone sneaking around outside the office building. I thought they were trying to break in, so I followed them. They went to the alley behind the building. I stayed hidden, but I saw them arguing with someone. Then one of them pulled out a gun. I left before anything happened, but I heard later someone had been shot in that alley. David's story. David spoke last. His voice was steady but cold. I'm a journalist. I was covering a story about corruption in the city. One of my sources called me, saying they had proof of illegal activities. We were supposed to meet at a cafe, But when I got there, the place was empty. I waited, but they never showed up. Later, I found out they'd been attacked on their way to the meeting. The accusations. When everyone finished, the room fell silent. Victor was the first to speak. All of these stories sound convenient. Too convenient. Someone's lying. But who? Liam fidgeted. What if it's you, Victor? You sound like you don't even care about what happened. Victor glared. And you sound like a scared little kid. Maybe you're lying because you're the killer. Marie raised her voice. Stop. This isn't helping. We need to focus on the facts. Whose story doesn't fit? James thought about the message from the box. Look closer at your stories. One of them does not belong. What if the liar's story has a clue in it? James asked. Something that stands out. The group went quiet, each person thinking. But the clock on the wall ticked louder and louder. Time was running out. Part 5. Cracks in the stories. The silence in the room grew heavy as they all stared at each other. No one wanted to speak first, but everyone knew they had to figure out the liar. We need to compare details, Marie said, trying to stay calm. Maybe we missed something. Victor rolled his eyes. What's the point? None of us trust each other. Exactly why we need to dig deeper, James replied. If someone's lying, their story won't match up with the truth. Spotting the flaws. Marie asked everyone to repeat key parts of their stories. The group reluctantly agreed. As they spoke, small details began to surface. James's story. Marie pointed out a timeline issue. You said you saw the car crash last month, right? She asked. Yes, James replied nervously. But you also said you reported it to the police that same day. If that's true, why wasn't it in the news? A murder like that would have been everywhere. James stammered. I don't know. Maybe it was covered up. Victor snorted. Convenient excuse. Clara's story. Alan questioned Clara's account. You said the injured man came to your clinic, Alan began, but wouldn't hospitals track patients like that? Even if he ran off, there should be records. Clara's face turned red. He wasn't officially checked in. He just came to me for help. I didn't write it down because, well, I didn't think it was important at the time. Victor folded his arms. Not very professional for a nurse, is it? Clara looked away, biting her lip. Victor's story. Zoe pressed Victor. You said your client was paranoid, she said. But if he thought someone was after him, why would he go to the gym at night? That doesn't make sense. Victor shrugged. How should I know? People don't always make sense when they're scared. Zoe frowned but didn't push further. Liam's story. Marie noticed a strange detail in Liam's story. You said you heard a loud bang and ran away, she said. Was it a gunshot or something else? Liam hesitated. I don't know. It sounded like a gunshot, but I didn't stop to check. Victor smirked. You're full of half stories? aren't you? The group turns on Liam. Liam's hesitation made him the target of everyone's suspicion. You're hiding something, Victor accused. Admit it. Liam shook his head. I swear, I'm not lying. But your story doesn't add up, Marie said gently. If you're innocent, help us understand. Liam opened his mouth to speak, but closed it again. Looking panicked, a sudden discovery. While the group argued, James noticed something on the box with the recordings. A small slot on the side glinted under the light. Curious, he slid his hand over it and found a hidden compartment. Inside was a folded piece of paper. Guys, look at this, James shouted. The group turned as he unfolded the paper. It read, "The truth is hidden in plain sight. Look closely at what they said and what they did not say." What does that mean? Zoe asked. Marie's eyes widened. It's not just what someone said, it's what they didn't say. What detail was left out? Replaying the stories. Marie began to recap. Clara said the injured man left the clinic, but she never explained why she didn't stop him. Liam said he heard a bang but didn't check what it was. Alan added, James reported a murder but doesn't know why it wasn't in the news. Victor muttered. And you, Zoe said, pointing at Victor, claimed you didn't see who killed your client. But how did you know it was in the parking lot if you weren't there? Victor's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? I'm saying, Zoe replied, your story is too clean. Too simple. Almost like you're hiding something. The box speaks again. Before Victor could respond, the box began to buzz. The group jumped back as another recording played. To find the liar, watch their actions. Words can deceive, but actions reveal the truth. What actions? Clara asked, her voice trembling. Marie frowned, deep in thought. The note said the truth is hidden in plain sight. What actions has everyone taken since we got here? They began to recount what had happened in the room. Victor was quick to accuse others. Liam fidgeted nervously but avoided confrontation. Clara stayed quiet most of the time. James discovered the hidden compartment. Wait, James said, looking at Clara. You've been really quiet this whole time. Why haven't you said more? Clara looked around, her eyes wide. I just didn't want to cause trouble. Or maybe, Victor said, his voice icy, you didn't want us to look too closely at you. The first revelation. The group's suspicion turned to Clara. As the pressure mounted, she began to cry. Fine, I didn't tell you everything. The man who came to the clinic, he threatened me. He said if I told anyone, he'd come back for me. Why didn't you say that before? Zoe asked. Because I was scared, Clara shouted. But I swear, I'm not the liar. I'm just a witness, like all of you. Victor crossed his arms. Convenient excuse. Marie sighed. We're running out of time. Let's go back to the note. Look at what they said and didn't say. Maybe there's still something we're missing. As the group continued to argue, the clock ticked louder. They were closer to the truth, but the killer was still among them. Part 6. The Final Truth. The room felt smaller as tension built among the group. The clock on the wall seemed louder with each tick. They all knew time was running out. The killer was still among them, and every moment they delayed could mean disaster. A question of trust. Marie tried to regain control. We've been chasing details, but we're not working together. If we don't figure this out soon, we're all doomed. Together? Victor scoffed. There's a murderer here. I'm not trusting anyone. Then we need to focus, Marie said firmly. The note said to pay attention to actions. What has everyone done since we got here? James leaned against the wall, thinking. Victor's been the loudest, accusing everyone. Clara stayed quiet until she had to talk. Liam's been nervous the whole time. And you? Zoe asked. You found the paper. What if that was a distraction to make us trust you? James looked offended. I found it to help everyone. Why would I risk drawing attention to myself if I were guilty? A breakthrough. Marie interrupted before the argument could grow worse. Wait. Let's think about this carefully. Every action has a reason. What have we all done since waking up here? She began listing the group's actions. James found the paper. Clara revealed she was threatened. Liam admitted to hearing a loud bang but didn't investigate. Victor kept pointing fingers. Zoe stayed calm and asked smart questions. Marie tried to lead. That's it, Marie exclaimed. The killer has been trying to confuse us. Everyone turned to Victor. Why are you all looking at me? Victor asked, his voice sharp. You've been accusing people non-stop, Zoe said. You're trying to keep us distracted so we don't notice something about you. Victor glared at her. Or maybe I'm just trying to survive like everyone else. The box speaks one last time. Before they could argue further, the box began to hum. The screen lit up with red letters. One final clue remains. The liar already knows the truth. Watch their reaction to the truth. What does that mean? Clara whispered. Marie thought quickly. It means the killer will know when we're getting close. We have to watch for how they react to our guesses. A dangerous guess. Let's test it, Zoe suggested. If the killer knows the truth, they'll panic when we're close. Fine, Victor said. Who do you think it is? Marie scanned the group. Victor, you've been acting suspicious. Maybe it's you. Victor smirked. Go ahead. Blame me. But you're wrong. Zoe stepped forward. What about Clara? She admitted to hiding something. Clara looked horrified. No, I'm not the liar. I told you everything I know. James shook his head. What if it's Liam? He's been jumpy from the start. Liam froze, his hands trembling. I swear, I didn't do it. A slip of the tongue. Victor suddenly laughed. It wasn't a friendly laugh. It was cold and sharp. You're all so desperate. None of you have a clue, do you? Marie's eyes narrowed. Why are you laughing? This isn't funny. Victor shrugged. It's just amusing to watch you all chase your tails. None of you are close to the truth. That's not true, Zoe said. You're nervous. That's why you're trying to distract us. Victor's smirk faded, and his eyes darted to the clock. The truth revealed. Marie stepped closer to Victor. You knew we wouldn't figure it out, didn't you? That's why you've been so calm. Because you already know the truth. Victor's face hardened. You don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I do, Marie said firmly. The killer knows the truth. And the way you've been acting tells me it's you. The room fell silent. Victor looked at each of them, his expression unreadable. Then he sighed. Fine. You caught me. The group froze. Victor's confession. Victor leaned back against the wall, looking strangely relaxed. You want the truth? I killed him. The man in the parking lot. He wasn't my client. He was blackmailing me. He threatened to ruin my life if I didn't pay him. You killed someone over money? Clara asked, horrified. Victor shrugged. It wasn't just money. He was going to destroy everything I worked for. I couldn't let that happen. Why lie about it? James asked. Victor laughed bitterly. Why do you think? I didn't plan on getting caught. But then this whole thing happened, and I had to play along. The final twist. The box lit up again. This time the message read, The killer has confessed. Justice will now be served. Before anyone could react, the walls began to shake. Metal doors slid open, revealing a group of police officers. What's going on? Zoe asked, panicked. A voice echoed through the room. You have completed the test. Victor has been identified as the killer. The rest of you are free to go. Victor cursed as the officers grabbed him. You set me up, he yelled at the group. You're no better than me. The officers ignored him as they led him away. A new beginning. The remaining 12 stood in stunned silence as the doors opened, revealing the outside world. Marie turned to the group. We made it. It's over. Is it? Liam asked. I don't even know what to believe anymore. Marie sighed. I don't know either. But at least we're alive. One by one, they walked out into the sunlight, each carrying the weight of what they had witnessed. The truth had been revealed, but the scars of the experience would remain with them forever. That's the end of the story. If you enjoyed the story, please like, share, and subscribe for more exciting tales. Check out our other videos and share your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for the next adventure. Thanks for watching.